At this point in my life, I could not hang out with the people that I knew. I felt a little bit on my own. So the only person that I had at that time was God, straight up. In Matthew chapter 7, verse 15, it says that beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. In the beginning of my journey, when I became born again, the first thing that I thought of was to find a church and go to. I found a church close to my house, right beside the road. So I started going to this church, and there's one prayer that I kept praying. At that time, I had not started speaking in tongues yet. I was still learning a lot. Let me put it that way. But by the grace of God, I would tell God that, God, you are the one who brought me here. I didn't come here by myself. So I'm committing my journey into your care. And I would always pray that prayer, like in everything that I would do. Because at this point in my life, I could not hang out with the people that I knew, and I didn't also know, like, I had Christian friends, my childhood friends growing up, most of them are Christian, but we weren't that close. So I felt a little bit on my own. So the only person that I had at that time was God, straight up. So I stayed at that church for a while. I would go to the weekend church service. I would go to the weekday service, and it was, it was really good until I started having certain dreams about the church. And there was one particular church leader that I would always dream was trying to have sex with me in the dream. And I would be like, no, I don't want to have sex with you. And then she would get angry and move away. So I had that same dream a couple of times. And initially, I was like, maybe the devil is the one giving me these dreams so that I stop the church. I was like, no, even though I'm having this dream, I'm still going to continue going to the church. But the dreams became repetitive, and then immediately I knew something was wrong. And there was an instance where I had the same dream again. And then the next Sunday service, I went, and she was giving me attitude, like she wasn't really talking to me, but we were cool. We've been cool, and now it's like, why is she like acting this way towards me? So I said, you know what, I don't want to be one of those people who go to church and be like, I had a little misunderstanding with the church leader, so I don't want to go again. I've stopped. I didn't want to be one of, so like I was like, you know what, God, like if I've done something, like please, like, soften her heart to like forgive me, and also soften my own heart, so that I don't put myself in a situation where I'm like having certain petty issues with a church leader. But the dreams continued, and I at that point I knew I had to do something. The final dream that I had that made me say, I'm never ever going to that church again. In the final dream, I turned, and then I see the church leader that I told you about, who wanted to sleep with me in the dream, coming to me with the head pastor of that branch. And then she's like, she pointed to me. You know how when you're in school, you go, the snitch goes to report somebody to the headmaster or the principal, and then the two of them are coming to you. It's like, she's the one, so she points to me in the dream. So the man comes to me, and then he says, like, "Ahawunim se yegumujana," and that literally, it means, don't you know we pour blood here? I was like, oh shit, in the dream. So I started running, and then there was a big gate, like a really huge gate appeared in front of me, and everybody in the church was like trying to grab me in the dream. So I screamed Jesus, and then when I said Jesus, the gate like It opened, and I was still running. Then another gate came. I said, in the name of Jesus, the gate opened. And then the final gate that came, I screamed Jesus. Immediately it opened. I woke up, and like the Jesus that I screamed like came out into the physical, and then I woke up. And then immediately, like, I just felt in my spirits like, Tess, what else do you want me to show you to prove to you that you should stop going to this church? I had one final dream before, I would say, I washed my hands off of that church. And in that dream I got called to, it was like a council, but it was one person sitting behind the table. It was a very big table, and it was like I had been summoned. And then the person said, what have you seen in this church? And then I said, I haven't seen anything. And then he said, let me say the second part. And she's like, I don't know who no was, sorry them I say. And then I said, Minyan Bibia. I said, I don't know where I said Minyan Bibia. And then I woke up, and then that was it. I didn't have like any dreams about that church anymore. I was cut off, completely by the grace of God from that church. And this testimony that I'm giving shows that through this journey, you have to set your eyes on the author and the finisher of your faith, who is Jesus Christ. Whatever you do, wherever you go, let Jesus be number one. Don't let a pastor be number one. Don't let a church be number one. Don't let your friends, your I think they call them your spiritual fathers and people like that, be number one. I'm not saying don't submit yourself to their authority, but whilst you are doing that, make sure to test all spirits to make sure that they are really of God. Because we are in the end time, people are deceiving people, spirits are deceiving people, and we have to be alert to make sure that we are not also part of the deceived. First John 4:1 says, Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits whether they are of God, because many false prophets have gone out into the world. And it's no joke out there. This church that I'm talking about has many branches across the country, and a lot of people are going to this church. So just look at yourself and look at where you are, and just focus, like, set your eyes on Jesus, because in the end it's going to be you before God. I'm just here to remind you to put Jesus first, so that you are not deceived, so that you can run this race and run it to the end successfully.